Hey guys, this is Scribe coming to you with a new commentary about Floodgate 19. It's quite a hard key, many people are struggling with it, and I'm here to alleviate some of that pain and show how I approach this key. The video is structured in 3 parts. First, I'm going to talk about the talents and why we're taking them. Second of all, I'm going to talk about the route that we played, and then we're going to dive into the key and all the pain points. My goal is to keep this video shorter than the last one. My last primary commentary was like around 50 minutes. I felt like that was a bit too long. So my goal here is to keep this to around like 20 minutes. So let's dive right into the talents. On the left side, we have pretty standard talents. All of this is necessary except for Sleepwalk, which is special here in this case. And the reason we pick it up is because of our routing. It depends on how fast you are on the first boss. If you kill the first boss and you have like around 1.5 to 2 minutes left on Lust before you get Lust back, then you're gonna play pull 6 and then you don't need Sleepwalk. But sometimes you're slow. And if you're slow and you get Lust and you have like Lust almost coming up after the first boss, then you want to skip straight into Big Mama to get Lust on cooldown, because you want to have like around 4 Lusts in this key, like one in the first pull, the second one on Big Mama, then one on Swamp Face, and then one on the last boss. And if you don't get Lust on cooldown instantly, then you're not able to do this. So the reason why you pick Sleepwalk up is to Sleepwalk this Demolitionist, so he walks away towards like the number 6 kinda, so your group can pass here behind them, and then you need another CC on the Inspector. Usually people play with a DK, a DH, so the DH will cage that, and then you can just play, just walk up the stairs and you go to the boss. So that's the reason why I'm playing Sleepwalk. On the right side, we have a couple choices. I thought about stuff, I tested stuff. And one thing you can do is you can skip Life Spark and you can skip the second TD charge and put 2 points into Exhilarating Burst, which will give you around like 15% increased healing if you play a lot of crit like I do. But my experimentation showed that you actually want to play into Life Spark, and the main reason you want to play into Life Spark is for temporal compression stacks. Our bronze spells are spells that don't heal that much by themselves. They're setup spells, right? Like our reversion, its payoff is later when we like do extra healing on a party member with Grace Period, or because it's healing over time. Our Echo is healing, its payoff is later when we cash in our Echoes, and so on. So during Swamp Phase, our issue is that when we're setting up bronze spells on the group, our group is dropping a lot because Swamp Phase is doing so much damage. And then we risk the group dying before we even finish our like small Echo ramps, right? And that's why we want to build temporal compression stacks while also healing the party at the same time. It's really important to get lots of temporal compression stacks because it buffs our healing by so much with tempo charged. And a good way to do that is with Life Spark, because otherwise, if you just hard cast Chrono Flames to heal the group, the cast time is way too long. But with Life Spark, we have a way to quickly get instant Living Flames, which also give us temporal compression, and then easier ways, or like more healing with our Spirit Bloom and our Dream Breath. Another choice you can make is to play Just in Time. I feel like it's very useful, especially on Big Mama and on the last boss. I feel like tanks are struggling there, but if you have a tank that is not struggling on Big Mama, feel free to pick up Exhilarating Burst just to get like around 7 to 8% more healing if you have a decent amount of crit. Now let's talk about the route. The way we played it is, I think, fairly standard compared to last season, and even in this season. The only thing that is worth mentioning is, like, depending on your timer on the first boss, you will either play pull 6 or you will skip straight to the boss. And then, as you can see, here's another skip at the end. We skip G56 and G57, and we do that by the tank pulling here to the right side, and then the group skips on the left side straight to the boss, and the tank melts, uses Melt Pot, and then we go to the boss. Anyway, let's dive right into the video. And I have that here. And I'm gonna start it. So I'm gonna put it on a higher speed. The first pull, the things you have to care about and that your team has to care about are overlaps from the 2 surveyors throwing their dynamite on the party. You should make your DPS aware that they need to track who this spell is going on, and then that they need to press defensives when there's like 2 dynamite throws on one party member. So here we have like 1 dynamite on Grippa, 1 on me, but if you see that 2 are throwing on the same person like Grippa, then he would need to press a defensive. My DPS are aware of that, and your DPS should be aware of that too. If you're hugging this key and you don't know if your DPS are gonna press something, feel free to like rescue them or to like press Lumithors. It's a good point to press Lumithors there and like hold it for an overlap like this. Or you could give them TD. Otherwise, you need to care about your tank in this pull. It's actually like healing wise a very easy to heal pull. You just care about your tank. You dispel them on cooldown. Like whenever the spell is up, just give it to your tank, and your tank is gonna be fine here. But mostly focus on tank healing here. Keep your fire breath up so that your life growth flame is healing your tank, and then just give your tank TD when you see he has no defensives left, so he doesn't proc or die. And I'm also sending Emerald Communion here in this case, just to keep my tank alive. And then we go to the next pull. So here, the next pull is quite dangerous for multiple reasons. First of all, the tank doesn't have that many defensives. And second of all, there are these overlaps. We have 2 servers, which can, again, like throw 2 dynamites on the same person, super dangerous. And then, on top of that, one thing you have to care about is that the nail gun is there. So in a high key, like a 19, nail gun plus 1 dynamite throw is already like a death, a certain death. Like the player is for sure dead. So every time you see nail gun on a player and throw dynamite, you want to make sure that that player either gets extra healing or that he presses a defensive. Like if you play in a coordinated group, make your DPS aware of that. Otherwise, one thing you have to think about is your tank being in a lot of trouble, because usually he had to use all his defensives in the first pull. So just be extra careful to use a TD on him when he has no defensives. Be extra careful to use Rewind when he takes a lot of damage. You can use Rewind mostly for the tank here. I would just like hold it and see if the tank is in trouble. Just press Rewind for the tank. And one last thing you have to care about is these loader bots who are spinning, and they can only be stunned in their spin when they get... they can only be stopped in their spin when they're stunned. And some groups have limited stuns. For example, we play with Paladin most of the time at the moment. This was an exception. We played with a warrior tank here. But if we had a Paladin here, then we only have our DH stun, and we have my stun with Deep Breath. So whenever they start spinning, it's quite annoying for the DPS, because DPS that are in melee, which are Grippa and Sotex, they have to run out of melee and lose uptime. So you want to stun them. You want to stun the wind up so they can freely DPS. So in this pull, I'm basically just looking at overlaps here. For example, he health pots when he gets the overlap of the nail gun plus the dynamite throw. And whenever, like, I'm paying close attention to the health bars and just looking at overlaps here. Overlap, I'm instantly pressing Lumithors here to help myself. Another overlap, he presses his Lichborn. And just be aware that you have to play this pull in this way. Always looking at overlaps of the dynamite throw and the nail gun and pressing defensives accordingly. Giving people TD, like pressing Lumithors. Or like rescuing them even if you see there's an overlap happening. And that's how you play this pull. Then we go ahead and play this other pull here. This is the third pull. Here we just have nail guns. Damage is not that high. Just keep your tank alive. Keep Dream Drift on the group to counteract the nail gun damage. Be aware of these mines here. They explode in a small radius. So even though you're like not on top of them, when you're like standing here close to them, you could still die from the mines. Yeah, so much about this pull. Then upstairs in this pull, again with the same situation, double dynamite throws are an issue. Keep an eye on your DPS. And then after this pull, we go to the next boss. One tip I can give you about this boss is that you're very strong healing this boss when you're in your tip to scales window. So what I would do is I would place myself here in the middle, and you never have to move from the middle, because when you're standing here in the middle of this triangle that the boss platform is forming, you can always hit both bosses from that point. And this way you're never like outranging. Because if I see some people like they stand on the edge like here, and then when the boss moves or jumps, you have to kind of like follow the boss because the boss is out of range. But by standing straight in the middle here, you are never gonna have like range issues, so that's helping a great amount. And then one thing about healing this boss is that you're insanely strong in your tip the scales window with your tier set. And you basically can just DPS. So here, we only have Brunt and Quick Fuse alive. At the start, some ads were alive. That made it a bit more difficult. So in that case, I had to look a bit more into healing my party directly. But if you only have the 2 bosses alive and you're in your tier set window, or like your tip the scales window of 30 seconds, I would just literally spam Living Flame on the boss, because it sends out 2 extra Living Flames and 1 hits the other guy that you're targeting. Here in this case, I'm targeting Quick Fuse, and then the other hits Brunt, and then the 3rd Living Flame that's shooting out will always heal that last player. So I'm just basically spamming Living Flame here. If you look at my tracker, Living Flame, that's always going to heal that one player that gets shot, right? I think he got hit by like a charge. It wasn't my fault. So whenever I'm like in this, whenever I have tip the scales, I'm just spamming Living Flame, healing the party this way. And then towards the end of tip the scales, I'm charging up a stasis. And then I'm just using that stasis release whenever someone drops. Well, I'm not in when I'm not in my scales window. And then when I get the scales back, I'm fine again for the next 30 seconds. And just spamming my Living Flame on the boss. Then one other thing you have to care about with these dispels is that that's the only situation where you're kind of scared about people getting killed by this boss, is if they have the dispel and you dispel them and they are low and then they get shot right after. So you always want to like insta-top them, because they can always get shot right after. So here I'm like paying extra attention to Sotex, topping him quickly. That's the dangerous part. Otherwise, you can pretty much chill, because the boss is only shooting 1 player each time, and then he starts a new rotation. So there will never be double shots on a player, except for when he starts a new rotation on the same player. That can also happen. Like, he can shoot Azor first, then Grippa, then Sotex, then me, and then he will start a new rotation of shooting people, and he could start on me, and then go Azor, Grippa, Sotex. So you just have to be careful towards the end of his shooting rotation, where he can shoot a person twice. But you have time in between, like 5 seconds, 6 seconds. It's not like he's gonna shoot and then shoot instantly again. So if you play this boss correctly, your only pain point is kind of topping people quickly after the dispel, and then you are chilling on this boss. Okay, then we go to this pull. In this case, we have lots of time left, so we're playing this pull. This pull is healing wise quite easy. The only damage that you have on the whole party is these snipers, which are just like randomly shooting people, and the best way to counteract or to like heal these snipes is just to have like Fire Breath at rank 1 on this pull. For the Life Givers Flame healing, you want to have like double reversion on the whole party and just Dream Breath, and then you just chill, you just attack, and you use your Life Spark procs to heal when someone gets low, like when someone gets shot and drops more than your Dream Breath and your Fire Breath and your reversions can heal. You just give them a Life Spark proc. If Life Spark proc is not enough, you Verdant Embrace them. And if Verdant Embrace is not enough, you use Spirit Bloom. Then you rotate between those 3 cooldowns. Verdant Embrace, Spirit Bloom, Life Spark proc. That's how you heal this pull. And otherwise, just care about stopping the reloads. You can knock up here like I do. You can deep breath stun here. But this pull looks scary, but it's actually quite easy. One thing you can also do is you can send your stasis here on this pull. You're free to use it because you will get it back. Remember, the next time we want to have stasis is like around 40 seconds into the boss fight. And this pull is like around 1 minute, 1 minute 30. So there you get your stasis back 100% of the time. If you just use it at the start of this pull, you get a free stasis use basically here, which will help you heal the pull. And that's how we play this pull. Then we go into Big Mama here. We last at the start. And one thing that I would recommend you to do here is to use Tip the Scales on pull on Big Mama, because you get it back for the intermission. You see the intermission is starting in 48 seconds, Tip the Scale is 1 minute, but it's not exactly 1 minute, because Tip the Scales also gives you this buff, which reduces your CDR, or like gives you 30% CDR at the start, decaying over time. So your CDR will actually reduce your Tip the Scales cooldown down to around 50 seconds. So you're fine to use Tip the Scales here to start, just to do more damage and to make the start of the boss fight easier. And then what you want to do is just keep like double reversion, double Dream Breath up. You're basically doing the same here on Big Mama that I just told you about in this previous pull. You're keeping up double Dream Breath, keeping up double reversion. And then whenever someone drops low, like lower than what your basic hot healing can heal, you're just gonna give them either like a Verdant Embrace, a Life Spark proc, or a Spirit Bloom. And then one thing that is actually quite huge to do on this boss fight is how you play around your stasis. You see I track here, we get the shield in like around 20 seconds. And I'm expecting my group to beat the shield and to start the jump start cast around that time. So I'm preparing a stasis accordingly for that. If you, like, you know, stasis goes on cooldown once you have stored 3 spells in stasis. So what I want to do is, I want to get stasis on cooldown as quickly as possible, so I have it not only ready for the first AoE, but also for the second AoE later on. So that's why around like the 20-second mark, I'm gonna press my stasis here, echo one player, in this case Azor, and then Verdant Embrace a second player. So in my stasis I've stored Echo on Azor, Verdant Embrace on Grippa, and then I want to press Spirit Bloom. So I have those 3 spells stored. And you can see already where my intention with this is going. Now when I release stasis, I get an Echo on Azor, I get a Verdant Embrace on Grippa, and then I get a big Spirit Bloom. And so if I also press an Echo on a Sotex now, before I want to release my stasis, I get a free Life Bind plus Spirit Bloom on the whole party with this combo. And now we're just going into the phase very soon. Lots of tank healing here. I'm actually even rewinding for my tank here. This boss is just super hard. And then when the intermission comes, I'm really safe because, as you know, I have a Life Bind combo stored in my stasis. So here at the start, on the shield, if we go like back for 10 seconds, I had rewind, I press tip the scale Spirit Bloom, and then I was also able to do a Life Bind here freely. I just could use my Verdant Embrace to do a Life Bind on this shield. Got double Dream Breath on the group this way, and I'm not afraid because Life Bind is the main way you're gonna heal this mechanic. I'm not afraid to get my Verdant Embrace on cooldown here because I have another one stored in my stasis. So whenever I wanna like release my stasis now, I'm just gonna give Sotex another like Echo and release my stasis, and it's gonna give me another Life Bind combo which will carry me through this phase. And now I can just press another Spirit Bloom and we're giga fine. And then one thing, like for the next AoE, what you have back is your tip the scales again, and you have your stasis back. So these two spells should carry you alone in lower keys. In plus 19s, it's gonna be hard, but even in a plus 18 or plus 17, just having tip the scales and your stasis will carry you through this AoE, and then you can basically use your rewind and your Emerald Communion however you like. You can use it freely whenever someone's dropping for the tank or whatever. Like just playing in this way with like activating stasis early to get it on cooldown and having tip the scales for every intermission will carry you by a lot. One advanced thing that I'm doing here that you don't have to do, but it's nice to help your team, is to use tip the scales on cooldown. You saw, usually you're kind of supposed to hold tip the scales for the intermission because it makes it really safe. But I'm actually sending it here for damage and for healing during, like, while nothing is happening. We have only the mecha drones are shooting on people. And the reason why I'm doing that is I want to get it on cooldown, so I do more damage on this boss. I get like 1 extra use of tip scales. And I'm confident enough that I will be able to heal this AoE even without my tip scales. So it's mostly that I'm setting it for damage here and to stabilize the group here during this time. And here I release my stasis to get the second Life Bind at some point here for this intermission, and I have my Emerald Communion here as well. So now I'm just using Emerald Communion. And it was close, but it was fine. And you see I've tipped the scales back now. So this gives me like 1 extra use of tip the scales. The next shoot is in 50 seconds, so we can do the same thing that we did at the start, just using tip the scales here to blast down these drones. And what I'm telling my team here actually for this third set of drones is to focus the drones, because it makes it so much easier. And I'm also focusing the drones myself. So the first two sets of drones we were focusing the boss mostly, but on the third set, it's one of the harder sets. It's actually better to focus the drones instead of the boss, and this way you get into the face easier. and then the boss is dead afterward anyway, right? Like the boss is so low that you will be able to kill him in the face. And for us, for our group, that made a huge difference. And that's how we heal Big Mama. And you saw I had stasis for every single one of the AoEs. And then I just used Rebind freely and Ammo Communion also kind of freely. Anyway, let's go to the next pull. It's the Blood Warper, also a pain point for many healers. The way I would suggest healing this is by getting 4 Leaping Flames. And the reason why that's so strong is because your Leaping Flames are super strong in your Tip the Scales window. If you look at your if you tip the Scales window, you see that our tier set is buffing our Chrono Flames. The 4 set increases the repeated healing of Chrono Flame by an additional 15%. So in our tier set window, we're actually super strong here. So we have our 4 Leaping Flames, we do a Life Bind, Tip the Scales, Spirit Bloom, Dream Breath afterwards, and then we send out the Chrono Flames onto the group. And we're doing, like, if this healing meter wouldn't, like, I think it wasn't reset, but we would do like 9 million HPS here, or like 8 million HPS. And then for the second one, you would release your stasis and you would use Emerald Communion. Anyway, let's go to the third boss, which is quite hard. So we're starting it here. So here what our goal is to keep perma reversion on, actually double reversion. You want to always have double reversion on all 3 DPS. And you want to keep double Dream Breath up. And the way you do this is you use real echoes, like hard-casted echoes, to keep Dream Breath on the party. So the boss just started. Ideally, I would just have like double Dream Breath here. I don't, because I was a bit behind, so I didn't have time to echo, and then Dream Breath, but you will have time, hopefully. So I would suggest you to echo, and then Dream Breath here on pull. And then the way, that's how we started. That's how we started the boss fight. You have double reversion on the party. I'm gonna refresh the reversions shortly. I have double Dream Breath, and that's your basic setup that you always want to keep up. And then you layer your healing on top of that basic setup of double Dream Breath and double reversion. And in this case, the first AoE, I'm gonna heal with Spirit Bloom in my stasis. I'm gonna store Spirit Bloom and stasis, and I'm gonna do the same combo that I described to you on Big Mama with storing 1 Echo and 1 Verdant Embrace on the party. So, so you can't use your tip. You want to use your Tip the Scales here to get the haste on pull, to just activate your tier set, and you can't use your Spirit Bloom for that. Because if you use your Spirit Bloom for that, then you don't have Spirit Bloom for later. So what I'm doing is I'm using my Fire Breath with the Scales here. Like around 13 seconds into the pull, you're gonna do that. You don't want to use it on pull, because as you know, your Tip the Scales, your buff here, is strongest when you are using it freshly. Like at the start, it's 30%, and then it's decaying over time. So you're strongest at the start. So you want to delay your Tip the Scales as much as possible, so that your strongest point in Tip the Scales is as close as possible to the AoE happening. That's why I'm delaying it a bit here. And then I'm just spamming Living Flame. And then I'm doing the stasis combo I talked to you about, charging up Spirit Bloom. And then right after, you're always going to do the same combo. You're going to do a Spirit Bloom here, into the Life Bind, and then right after, you're going to always use TA, just to apply the shield to the party. And then use Reversion to refresh your reversions. And what that does is it procs Golden Hour, because right now this is like Awaken the Swamp. This is the phase where the whole group takes so much damage, and that's why your Golden Hour has extra value. It heals back more than it usually would, because the group just took so much damage. So here I'm just refreshing reversions for Golden Hour healing, and then right after I'm gonna put echoes on the whole group to refresh my Dream Breath. That's the best point to put echoes up, because in this phase the dot drop from the group. We have like a 6-second window where nothing is happening, and that's the best time to set up healing for the future. So that's the best way to put up real echoes and then use a Dream Breath. So that's what I'm doing here. And here, now we start into the second phase. And as you can see, we got Temple Compression stacks, because what that also does, like putting up Echo on the whole group and refreshing reversions, gives us Temple Compression stacks. And then we can start this phase by healing with Spirit Bloom. So here I'm just using Spirit Bloom, using a Fire Breath, just healing a bit here with my Leaping Flames. And then whenever we get into the phase, I'm using Zephyr here, and I'm releasing my Stasis Lifeline combo. And what we can do here is then also use a Spirit Bloom right after. If you used Spirit Bloom early in the phase, then you get it back. So you basically release Stasis and you follow it up with another Spirit Bloom to make it like super safe. So here, see, group is fine, and then you always do right after what I told you about, like TA into reversions, and then Echo, 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 Dream Breath. This combo is always going to be the same for every phase. Okay, now we get back to the third set of debuffs, and you see we have the same situation as on pull. We're going to tip the scales into our Fire Breath, we're going to spam Living Flame, and then when the AoE happens, we're gonna be using my Lifeline combo. And in this case, I'm just gonna choose to Emerald Communion, but if you have like, I could have also just called for AMZ and hard casted a Spirit Bloom. Would have also been completely fine. It's up to you what you do here. I think I used Emerald Communion here, but I could have just as well called for AMZ and just used my Spirit Bloom instead as well. So here you see, oh, I'm actually rewinding. Never mind, I rewinded. But I could have just used Emerald Communion, just the same. And then here for the fourth set of dots, I'm keeping up the same as I told you, casting Spirit Bloom here. And this set of debuffs, I'm probably gonna just Emerald Communion. Here, just using Emerald Communion. And then we have tipped the scales back. So we're doing the same thing that we did before. So now we're basically playing it as just like on pull. If I think I'm not sure if I played it correctly. So I might have made a mistake here. But the idea would be to like tip the scales of Fire Breath and just play it like you're back on pull. I think I'm not doing that. Yeah, I fucked it up. But I hope if you're playing it, you would basically tip the scales of Fire Breath, just spam Living Flame, and then when you get to Awaken the Swamp, you would do the same Echo combo into your Stasis, like Echo 1 player, press Stasis, Echo, Verdant Embrace, Spirit Bloom, and you also get Gloomy Thirst back for this. So I didn't play it correctly here. And what this allows you to do would be just have to repeat the first 3 sets, like the way that we hit the first 3 sets on the boss. Because now we could use our Spirit Bloom freely at the start. And then for this AoE that's happening here, we would get our Stasis release with the Life Bind. And we could send a Spirit Bloom right after to heal the group. And then for the next set, we would have our tip the scales back. But I didn't do that, so my group had to health pot and use some extra stuff. We could make it work. But yeah, that's the way I would have played this. Or I played this. I would have played this if I played correctly. Anyway, let's go to the next pull. This is quite a difficult pull here. Mostly because of debuffs. Because we have 2 electricians, and each of them does a debuff on a 10-second cooldown. So you always have like, well, like actually 20 seconds cooldown. Anyway, you have to dispel on cooldown basically. You don't have a Your Spell available for your tank, but your tank also gets a lot of damage from these soldiers. They put a debuff on him, which makes him take like insane damage. And the way you can help your tank here is by actually using Stasis on pull to store the spells in your Stasis. And what this allows you to do is to actually dispel the tank at some point. So here I have some dispels stored in my Stasis. And whenever we get new dispels now, I can dispel one and actually dispel my tank for once on the next one. So here I'm actually planning to dispel my tank here. And then I could have released my Stasis for the dispel, for the second dispel. So using Stasis for an extra dispel here on the tank, quite useful in this pull. Then we come to this next pull here, which is again 2 electricians on this big guy, the jump starter. And the way I would suggest you play is that you focus down a caster, because this pull only gets like made hard by the casters. So if you just focus down one caster, this pull is like super easy. Healing the jump starter, not that hard. So just focus, tell your team, tell your group to focus down one jump starter, and you're gonna have an easier time with this pull. Anyway, let's jump straight to the boss. Skipping here, I mean, for those who want to look, we pulled it to the right. We just went through. You want to outrange this as fast as possible, because they have a range of like 40 yards, I think. So by like hovering ahead, you're basically outranging the AoE, and then you're just waiting for your tank to use Melt Pot and reset. and you can go straight into this boss. The way you structure your cooldowns on this boss is that you have tip the scales for every intermission. So for every turbocharge, you have tip the scales ready, and you have your stasis for every second one. So if I'm gonna use like tip the scale stasis on the first one, I will have it back for the third AoE again. So in the one in between, I will have to use stasis plus rewind, for example. And then you can use your ammo communion freely for any dot you have to heal. So this first set, tip the scales into like a stasis. And then I can release the stasis instantly to heal right after. Like you're gonna release it during the phase just to heal the phase. Then here for these dots, you wanna make sure that you have like life spark procs ideally. And you wanna have like double reversion on the targets. And the way these dots get applied, by the way, is always in a system. So you saw Azur and my DK got targeted, and what that means that me and Sotex are gonna get targeted next. So this way you can like know who gets targeted next. So I already know because those got targeted that me and Sotex are next for the second set of sparks. And I see, okay, we have good defensive, CS Blur, I have my scaled, and I'm gonna also Renewing Blaze on top. And I'm gonna prepare for that by having double reversion already. Like I gave myself double reversion, I gave Sotex double reversion, I gave us both an echo. So I'm super prepared here. And then whenever it happens, I'm just instantly using Life Bind and then casting Spirit Bloom or like Life Spark procs, whatever you want to do. Whatever you have ready. And then for this set of the AoE, I would suggest you to use Tip the Scales again, and then you can use Rewind. You can also, by the way, alternate your Zephyr and your Lumithars if you have those trinkets, or like this trinket. So on the first set of AoEs, I could have used Tip the Scales and my Stasis and Lumithars, and then on this set, I could use Tip the Scales, Rewind, and Zephyr. So you can make the group safer this way. So here I'm using Lumithars and Zephyr because I'm an idiot. And then I should have also used Rewind to make the safer. I don't know why I was holding Rewind. It doesn't make any sense, but I hope you're smarter than me here and playing it the correct way. I think most healers struggle to heal those debuffs. So one tip I can give you is to prepare like double reversion on the group to be ready for that. And then again, I told you, you can always use your Ammo Communion for these debuffs because you don't need it on the intermissions. And the best way to heal these debuffs is with like Verdant Embrace on the first tick, and then following up with either Life Spark procs or Spirit Bloom. I would use a Spirit Bloom because Life Spark procs only heals one player, so if one player is immuning it, then obviously you can use Life Spark procs on that one remaining player, but if two players get hit, I would just use Verdant Embrace for the first hit, then Verdant Embrace, then gonna be topped again, and then you just follow it up with a Spirit Bloom, and then afterwards you just send in Life Spark procs into the players. Or just use Echo Reversion or some other stuff, some other small thing-type healing. Anyway, now for the third set, as you can see, I have like Tip the Scales and Stasis back, and it's easy to heal this way. And then for the set afterwards, so if you get a fourth set, if this boss is lasting like a long time, like if you get a fourth intermission, you have Tip the Scales, and you have your Zephyr back, but you don't have like a Rewind in this case. I mean, I have a Rewind in this case, but you should have used Rewind on the second AoE. So in this case, you just have to call for maybe defensives, or you can just heal it naturally. I mean, Tip the Scales on its own is strong enough, I think. Tip the Scales and Zephyr should be able to carry it on its own. And then we just kill the boss. It was quite close. We timed it with 1 second left. But we had 4 deaths, and we were not that comfortable in the game yet. I'm sure we can do 20 eventually. I feel like I wasn't at my limit or at my max. So I think there will be a 20 happening at some point, especially after the turbo boost. But yeah, I hope my tips helped you, and good luck progressing this key or timing this key, and see you out there.